Shalom Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun and you're watching Israeli News Live. And of course it is Ein Shalom, there is no peace, and it seems to be that there's just no end of conquest and conquering in the Middle East. Once we thought things are going to die down, you know, Trump makes the big boast that ISIS has been defeated. Well, maybe the jihadists they want to defeat are defeated, and the ones that they want to use to continue to conquer the territories all in around the southern parts of Syria, they keep those for a later date. After all, as I said to you before, I had friends of ours in Israeli military that said that there were ISIS militants that were wearing tzitzit. That's something to be thought-provoking, you might say. I want to share with you something here on the screen here. This is coming out of different reports already. They're showing the map here, the Al-Tanf area that the United States has under its control right now, all the way over to Zord right there. And of course, to kind of zoom in a little bit more on this particular area, actually I'm looking for a different map here, right here. Al-Bukmal, this is the very location there where we were talking about the clashes the other day. And of course, U.S. forces bombing the airfield that belongs to the Syrian Arab Army, killing many of the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard there. So there is a major push right now to take this area from Al-Tanf all the way over to southern Syria there near the Euphrates River, and why the U.S. is working to battle against the Syrian Arab Army directly, as well as the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who has been trying to maintain this area, and of course are using ISIS militants. I'm going to kind of get into a little bit more of this as we go. Very serious situation on the ground, and still mainstream media not covering anything that's really going on. But we do have different news sources coming out of the Middle East there, as well as even France and Italy, that have picked up on this story, giving us bits and pieces of what we've already shared with you. This here is from Al-Massadr News, or Amman News. U.S. plotting to expel Syrian army, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and from key border town of Al-Watan. Now that's a different issue altogether, and this is of course this was just the other day that it came out. The Arabic language Al-Watan newspaper claimed on Monday that U.S.-backed Jihad Mughawar al-Tahura is forcing tens of youth from the Al-Raqban camp to join their ranks at Al-Tanf region near the Iraqi border. The citing sources from U.S.-backed group Al-Watan said these new personnel are going through intensive military training for a major battle in the near future. The newspaper said these forces will attempt to expel the Syrian Arab Army and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps from the key border town of Al-Bukmal and large town of Al-Mayadin in rural Deir ez-Zor. The Al-Watan newspaper also quoted informed sources as saying that the U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces have also been dispatched to these fronts to aid in the offensive. The sources also pointed to the efforts of the SDF to send more equipment to the region, adding that main aim for this operation is cutting the international highway. And a relevant development on Saturday, media reports revealed that Washington had dispatched new military to the Syrian Democratic Forces in eastern Euphrates after declaring an end to the war on ISIL. Now, let's get into the meat of this so we can really take a look at what's going on here. As I mentioned here before, different sources are reporting it, including this one here. Now, this is going all the way back in March. A couple of weeks ago, the U.S. coalition in Syria using ISIS at Al-Tanf. ISIS militants. Says ISIS is defeated, and the Syrian Defense Forces announced the capture of thousands of ISIS terrorists. But according to the global research, those ISIS terrorists are being circulated back in as fighting members for the different jihadist forces to overtake this region and defeat the Syrian Arab Army. And not only do we have this as a confirmation, but we also have, or I should say as a, not as a confirmation, but Ava J. Colorodius, who, by the way, is a political analyst specializing in Middle East opinion writer. She writes on multiple different news sources there. She's the one that actually broke the story about U.S. forces bombing in al-Bukamal in that region there, and as well attacking the Syrian Air Force base there, the military base near Deir ez-Zor, as they did years ago. A couple of years back, if you remember, the U.S. coalition forces, which included British forces there, had bombed, instead of, as they claimed they were bombing ISIS militants, they were bombing the Syrian Arab army near this very same airfield, killing 66 Syrian military officials as well as about a dozen Russians. Well, oddly enough, it didn't end there yet, and it's happening all over again. Only this time we have a total of about 35 Syrian Arab army military that has been killed as a result of U.S. airstrikes on that very same location. This source here was released by Ava on her site there. This is the Arabic site that is, the Arabic news site here that is actually claiming to have that the U.S. actually struck that particular air base there. We also have as well on AMN News, breaking fears, clashes break out in eastern Deir ez-Zor as a large group of ISIS terrorists cross the Euphrates. Now, Ava claims that ISIS is not involved. So I don't know exactly what side of the political spectrum she's on this, but she's claiming that there is no ISIS militants involved in this fight, but there are many sources that are reporting that they are. The Islamic State terrorist group managed to sneak out of the Baghouz mountain region in eastern Deir ez-Zor, cross the Euphrates River this evening. According to the military source in nearby homes, an Islamic State terrorist reached the town of Al-Siyal in eastern Deir ez-Zor, where they were eventually spotted by the Syrian Arab army. According to this report here, the Syrian Arab army took them out. But according to the reports of the U.S. airstrikes, that's where the Syrian Arab army suffered a tremendous amount of casualties. Now, to kind of support this information here from Amman News, there was a military observer in the Russian language. This was on, actually released on, what is it, Telegram, I believe is what this is, Telegram Online. An article here that I ran across here. It says, all of you remember the caliphate was defeated by the American Kurds after the siege of Baghouz in the Syrian Deir ez-Zor region there. On the eve of the group, the terrorists, IG, tried to escape from their mountain shelters in Baghouz. They were seen by a detachment of the Syrian army, partially destroyed, partially captured. So it is conflicting reports about this ISIS militant group here, and that's just a Russian look at this. Said an unknown number of most desperate jihadists have been doing nothing. Have nothing to lose after hiding in Baghouz caves. They're blocked and subjugated to bombing on a regular basis, or shelling on a regular basis. But we also have two here on Press TV. The USA would consider occupying Abu Kamal and Al-Mayadeen, which, you know, the whole reason I'm bringing these things out here, friends, is to show you the support of this military confrontation that we were sharing with you already, that the U.S. is indeed looking to take this whole region here, connect it to this part of the Euphrates River. There is a strategic purpose for this, and it's not going to end there. Once the U.S. has this area here, you have to understand they're doing this for Israel and China. Wow, you say China? Yes. What's happening? If you'll notice, they're connecting to Iraq. Instead of just coming down south of the border, which they could do, they're connecting to Iraq. For what? The pipeline they want to run through Damascus. But why would they actually want to run through Syria, this pipeline, when they could go through the country of Jordan? Nothing else and nothing more but to siphon off all the resources of the Syrian government by the oil fields here that are being held captive by the Kurdish forces. They will then take those oil reserves, connect that to their pipeline that's going to the port there in Haifa that the Chinese are building for this One Belt, One Road initiative, right? So this is where we're missing the bigger picture of what's really going on. So coming back now and take a look at Press TV, the U.S. would consider occupying Abu Kamal and al-Mayadeen. Says Washington, an armed group under his command, are recruiting young people residing in the Al-Rukban camp for use in their next operations. Nothing the suspicious action, the small group, Maghawir al-Tahara and International Coalition, the Anab Baladi affiliated website reports that the small group and coalition sponsored by Washington are recruiting young people residing in the Rukban camp. Remember when we reported how Russia wanted to liberate the Rukban camp? Sent the buses down there with a Russian military escort? The Russians knew what the U.S. was doing. They're using the Rukban camp as slave labor for the military that they want to fight. Cannon fodder, if you would. Let them go before the U.S. soldiers and let them do the dirty work. And, you know, this is terrible, guys. This is really, I mean, this is just absolutely horrendous. What levels are we stooping to in the world? You know, located in Al-Tanf area in the southern Syrian province of Homs, Rukban camp shelters thousands of displaced Syrians, prevented by U.S. troops and the terrorists they support to leave the camp to go to Syria. After being recruited by the Maghawir al-Thawara, the youths receive intensive military training to learn how to use light and semi-heavy weapons, as well as anti-armor rocket launching platforms. The training is intended to increase this military capability for the subsequent operations. According to the Anab al-Baladi, the international coalition forces want to dominate the cities of Abu Kamal, al-Mayadeen, which are located in eastern Deir ez-Zor, and now controlled by the Syrian army and its allies. I just wonder, where is this all going to end? It's not. This here is a Italian website. I translated it using Google here. The United States relaunches ISIS in Syria through its own Al-Tanf base. ISIS. You know, as I reported the other day, this air campaign was a support for the ISIS militant forces there. The U.S. does not care so long as it serves the interest of this global plan to get the oil through Syria and rob the oil from Syria and run it through the ports of Haifa. As our good friend in Israel has said to me, you want to know when the U.S. will fight and where they'll fight? All you got to do is look at the pipeline, Steve, and then you'll have your answer. They will fight to make sure these pipelines are established, and they'll also fight to make sure the drug pipelines are established. Says right here, and forgive me guys, I don't have, my glasses are broke, so I have a very weak pair. For the third time in the last 2 weeks, the terrorists of the Islamic State have ambushed the Syrian Arab army in eastern Syria. According to various sources, ISIS attacked army checkpoints on the outskirts of the city of Al-Qom, north of the city of Sukhana, in the countryside of eastern Homs. The attack began at sunset. The fighting lasted more than 3 hours before the ISIS withdrew from the area. Okay, and they're showing you actual pictures and stuff of this information here. Second ambush claiming 20 soldiers killed, 4 vehicles destroyed, and 7 others seized after hours of battle near Bishrai Mount. And you know, there has been some debate as whether or not Russia has been helping to battle the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. In fact, Hezbollah's leader Nasrallah is denying that claim, saying that it's not so. Nasrallah may not realize what side Putin is really on. Because all you got to do is just think about it. And I don't say Putin's on the right side, wrong side, or the other side is the right side or wrong side. You know, the devil has all these groups to his own beck and call. And now look at the map below and you will find an unpleasant surprise. It is very clear that all the actions of ISIS find momentum and food from the strategic area of the American Al-Tanf off-limit to the Syrian forces. Wow, what an amazing map. Everything they have need of to supply for the armament and battles. So what's coming in the near future? Well, you got to keep in mind what the real aim is here after they take over that region of the world is Damascus. Because after all, even though the pipeline is going to go right straight to Haifa there, it's going to be south of Damascus. Which, by the way, this is another reason why the U.S. has fought to maintain control of this southern region here, but lost to the Syrian Arab Army not too long ago. The Tiger forces went in there and overtook that area. All right. We have again reports of an air raid. This just happening, I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Reports of an air raid in the IRGC-backed militias in Shahul Deir ez-Zor countryside believed to be U.S. strike. We have also, and this is very interesting to see here, very typical of U.S. way to wage war, is to cause civil unrest. This is a French language news outlet here on Twitter, saying demonstrations are currently taking place in the province of Deir ez-Zor. They're denouncing the insecurity of general, the cost of living, fuel prices, and requisitions for hydrocarbons by the Alawali regime of Bashar al-Assad. So they're already starting the riots to get the people all riled up to turn against the Syrian army. That's exactly what they're doing. Works every time. Displace everything. Also, the U.S. has targeted 32 oil tankers in Deir ez-Zor which tried to enter Syria's government-held areas. Al Arabia is reporting that. So there is a fierce battle on by the U.S. And this, my friends, is the very reason why, as I mentioned to you before, the Sykes-Picot pipeline running from Iraq right through the heart of the oil-rich areas there. Notice the ISIS areas that it's running through, ISIS strongholds. They will protect it, the Kurdish strongholds. But the Syrian army has these areas here that they have to take out in order to get that pipeline to where? To the Haifa port. Not via the route that the Russians have worked out with Lebanon to go to the Lebanese port, or even to go to Latakia, where the Iranians would like to have a control of that port there. Everybody is fighting to control that oil. And who's going to get it? And as you can see, the one that's going to be the winner, and as I was told by Israeli intelligence officials already, the United States and Israel will do whatever it takes, including attack Russia if necessary, to make sure that pipeline goes to Haifa and nowhere else. And the thing is, they're all building their pipelines to prove it. In fact, from Haifa, it goes to Greece. Across the ocean floor, the pipeline's already being laid to go to Greece. They're getting that money out of the Europeans. That's what it all comes down to, guys. Anyway, Kim Jong-un arrives in Vladivostok, Russia, for the first ever summit with Vladimir Putin, as we have here.
Kim Jong-un has arrived in the city of Vladivostok in
He
Russia's
has arrived, as being reported by RT News there. He is there to meet with President Putin. I'm not sure exactly what time that meeting will be going on, but he came in his armored train there, very, very well fortified. No one's not even allowed to touch the train. His limo is inside the train. He's got private cars for him, his family, his security guards. He travels in luxury, etc. But the reason why he has come to Russia to meet with President Putin is because Kim Jong-un is claiming he never got anywhere with President Trump. Instead, only more sanctions and more demands in order to be able to bring about any normal relationship. So it looks like he's now turning to Russia for that type of relationship. So at any rate there, just to kind of give you a heads up on what's going on there. I wasn't going to get into that issue at all anyway, but just wanted to share that with you. I'm Stephen Benoon, and got a lot we're going to be covering later today. So stay tuned here with Israeli News Live. Got another broadcast coming up very shortly, in fact, about an hour from now, to air after this broadcast here. We'll be having an interview there with Chuck Baldwin. Dr. Chuck Baldwin used to be the pastor of Crossroads Baptist Church in Pensacola, Florida. Chuck Baldwin runs a online broadcast out of Montana now, and he really is very passionate, loves the Lord Jesus, and we can't wait to have him on today. And as well, don't forget, we will... All right, one other thing just to remind you guys of as well, paulbegleyprophecy.com. Definitely go to the website there. We will be speaking at the event on May the 11th. The heavens are shaking. You can go there. You can just click on the word tickets to get you there to the actual event there. You know, I am not an expert on Planet X. I have looked at this information for a number of years. I know there's a lot of people who say that it's not so, but I'm going to be there sharing information from a memory stick that a brother gave to me up in Kansas. In fact, that brother, if he would, I'd love for him to reach out to me before I even do this conference there. And you can reach me, brother, just by emailing me, stephenbenoon@gmail.com. Would love to just be able to speak to you once again about this information. But nonetheless, I'm going to be speaking about that, maybe getting in a few other points there while we're there at the conference there. I think it'll be a blessing if you're able to come. We'd love to be able to meet you there. My wife will be traveling with me as well. Those of you that love her, I know you might want to be able to speak to her after the conference, something like that. So she might be able to have time with some of you then as well. So we look forward to that. We were planning on possibly staying a little longer, but I don't know if I'll be able to. We may have to go right back afterwards. We've got a lot of issues that we're trying to take care of. But anyway, thank you for watching the broadcast here. Shalom in a world of Ein Shalom.